Yes, you are audible. So, hi everyone, and today we have a very, very special student with us, Dr. Debayan Banerjee, and he secured an amazing rank 4. Yes, you heard me right, rank 4 in INI-CET May 2025. Heartiest congratulations, Debayan. This is a moment to be really proud of. Are you happy?
Very good evening, ma'am. Yes,
Good
actually, I'm
evening, Bashir.
totally over the moon. I checked the result 2 or 3 times just to make sure that's the rank, and I
So
would just
even
like,
even toppers are unsure sometimes. Yes.
yeah, because I have to check it, cross check it once or twice just to be sure, and
Yeah.
I'll just owe this to my parents because they were my
Yes.
biggest pillars of support. Like
Definitely.
without them, it would not have been possible.
Definitely. That is so true because we need all kinds of support, and parents are like the strong pillars that keep you going through, right?
Yes.
But yes, Debayan, coming this far is is really a big task because not only it's a very, very competitive exam, it is an exam that we really want to do well. It has so many prestigious institutes, and we all want to secure the best rank so that we can, do the branch of our choice. And rank 4, I know, believe me, I know, I understand how much effort goes into it, and it's consistency, a lot of hard work. So, Debayan, we congratulate you once again. And at the beginning itself, I would say thank you for making DAMS a part of your journey. So, Debayan has been an INI-CET TND student with us. He also did Ultimate App Live in 2023. But, Debayan, yes, we want to hear it from you. What has been your journey like when you started preparing, and now that you've come this far, what do you recall instantly?
Well, ma'am, like I've started very concretely, if you can say, for the entrance point of view, maybe from my final year, maybe
Okay,
for the middle of my final year. So the preparation initially was just to get a good hold and understanding of the subjects rather than
I
to
understand.
very rather than a very entrance focused preparation. My first goal was that I have a good understanding of the subject because I feel once we master a particular subject, no question is very difficult. You just need to have a good understanding of the subject.
I
So
agree.
that was my
Because
goal, and so I just made sure that initially I watched the videos to get a good understanding of the terminologies, the concepts, so that
yeah,
once those are built, so I can always go and build upon it.
and I think you are very right on it because looking at the current pattern of the exams are asking a lot of basics, right? So if you look at the content, it's not vague things, but it is like core basics within a subject. And for that, your content has to be good. You have to learn to apply that content as well. It's not just about vastness of the content, but it's also about are you clear on your basics or not. So, do you agree with me, Debayan, when I ask you that none of the questions in INICET were like something out of the blue, right? They were asking the core basics. Yes, maybe the options were close, and yes, because of the multiple completion type, it gets difficult. What is your take on that?
Well, my first thoughts like giving the exam, I all like felt that it was nothing very much rocket science, but I felt that the exam tested areas wherein we need to go to the hospitals, to the wards, to the postings, because a lot of it was very practical. And once you talk to doctors or resident doctors there, a lot of stuff they say just appears in the form of an option because we may not find it in the books at times because the language of the book is a little different. But what I felt the exam tested was very core basic clinical things, and which
Yes.
mandated going to the hospital, seeing patients. I felt that the exam tested that aspect. So we need to, I feel that I ensured that I prepared in such a way that I am aware of the basic clinical things, not the very rare syndromes or genes or stuff like that. The basics
Agreed.
should be strong. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then, Debayan, let's come on to the MCQ skill as well, because once you have your content, it's also about how to apply the content. So this time, can you comment on the paper pattern, because there were a lot more multiple completion type questions in the paper as compared to previous times. So how does that contribute in making the paper slightly, I won't say tough, but yes, it becomes, you need a lot of presence of mind and to know everything about every option so that you're able to do it correct.
Yeah. So like again, my first thoughts when I gave the exam was that it tested areas which were again clinical, as I had mentioned before, and the exam was I would say of a good difficulty level, because there were questions which needed a lot of understanding,
Yes,
and there were questions which needed you to remember certain things, remember certain values. I remember a question from ophthalmology which came, like it has two concepts, like WHO endorses a particular concept and there is the Indian guidelines which endorse another
yes,
concept. So we need to know that difference, to be able to answer that question. And INICET per se, it has a lot of questions which you very rightly mentioned are statement based questions. Like
yes.
there are a set of 4 or 5 statements given, and we need to choose which are the correct statements.
Correct one.
And
Yes,
I would like to reiterate that the options are such that knowing just 1 or 2 statements may not fetch you the answer always,
yes,
because you need to
absolutely.
have an idea of all the 4 or 5 statements to be able to correctly arrive at a particular answer.
I agree. I completely agree with you. And that's what makes it, maybe tougher for some of these students, because half-hearted, but if you don't know the others, you're still sort of stuck up, right? Okay. And now I want to ask a very, very vital question. What was your attempt ratio? How many questions did you attempt?
Ma'am, I had spoken to a lot of my seniors. I had watched your mentor series with you and Dr. Sumay sir. I feel everywhere there was just one piece of advice, that we need to have a good number of questions to be attempted, always above
Okay.
190, 195. So
Yes.
I made sure that I attempted 197 questions in the main exam,
Okay.
and not all of it I was very sure of it, but I took some educated guesses because I felt
Yes.
that was needed. Because leaving unnecessarily whenever you're like half-hearted between two options, I feel it's always good to take a guess and take a 50% chance in getting that question correct.
Absolutely. And with the kind of paper we had, I mean, yes, eliminating and attempting should have been the way forward. And
Yeah.
what do you think? I know it's still not out, but what, according to you, would be roundabout your number of correct questions, Debayan?
Uh, I did not watch the recall very in lot of in detail, but I had around maybe 160 or 162 questions, which I feel were correct. But again, you never know like what is the answer. We
Hmm.
just going based on the recalls, I feel I have about 100 or 165 maybe, or maybe a little more,
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
just maybe there were a few questions I was not sure of the answer, so you
Yes.
never know.
So
But
maybe
if
I think you would be somewhere surely between 165 and 170 is what I feel, Debayan.
Yeah, I feel
Uh,
that. Yeah,
right.
maybe.
Okay, wonderful. And now let me ask you also about, time management. Some of the students said that it was lengthier this time. What is your take on that?
Well, I would agree that the paper was lengthy. If not the entire paper, there were particular sections in the paper which were a little lengthy, because, like the section I started with, I generally, have a habit of completing the 50 questions with having about 14 to 15 minutes in hand. I always make sure that, so that
Mm-hmm.
I give the remaining time to revision. But attempting the first section itself, when I looked at the timer, when I finished first reading of all the questions, there were just 6 minutes remaining. So the paper
Okay.
was on a little bit on the
Line.
lengthier side. And
Yes.
again, more of that I would say was because of the statement based nature of the question, because the questions were a little lengthier. Some of them required you to read each and every line, because there can be just one word which changes the answer, like which is correct, which is incorrect. So we always need to err on the side of caution reading those questions carefully.
Yes, very well put. And Devayan, also I wanted to ask you that when we are, we all know that there is importance of PYTs, right? Instead of saying PYQs, I would still say, even looking at this paper, it is about PYTs. So what is your take on that? And also here I would like to ask you, since you've done the INI-CET TND, which we specifically focused for INICET, do you think it helps you build those PYTs especially?
Yes, ma'am. The INICT TND especially, it was very good because it covered certain areas which we tend to maybe ignore sometimes, because there are certain practical things which are covered in the form of questions. We may not expect them to appear in the form of questions in the exam, but I
Yes,
feel the INIT CET TND address those aspects very well, because for example, I'll just take an example of a subject of psychiatry, because there were sir had covered attenuated psychosis syndromes and stuff like that, which I would not have prepared if sir would not have covered that. So I feel it
yes,
addresses those few areas very nicely, and the PYQs, of course, it covers it very well. And another thing, I feel that the INICT is a very updated paper. It always, stays with the latest guidelines, the latest information, the latest
yes,
update. I feel that that should always be a part of one's preparation if they are eyeing for the INICT exam.
yes, yes. And again, very well said, and that gives us a good insight as well. Also, Devayan, I want to ask you, because sometimes when we say PYQs, sometimes the message is not very loud and clear, and students would say, okay, this means should I only stick to PYQs? And I think that's where we need to have a more open review from the toppers, that when you were preparing, did you really stick to PYQs? At what time did you do the PYQs? And towards the end, when it is revision, what was your focus on, right?
So, ma'am, when I started preparation, I did not choose to restrict myself very initially, because whenever, like, I was in my third year, final year, so that time I chose to, go and explore the subjects in a little bit more detail. So that
Yes,
always helps. I feel
yes,
whenever someone is in the third and fourth prof, you have a lot of time. You're not under the pressure of time, or there is a crunch, or there is a schedule, or there is an exam which is always approaching. So initially my goal was to get a good understanding of the subject, because as I mentioned, once you have a good understanding, the questions you can always tackle them at any point of your time, because if you have the subject in hindsight, you know the things. uh, Answering a question becomes much easier, like you have a knowledge or hindsight. So in my MBBS times, I used to ensure that I read the stuff properly, go to the textbooks a little bit if possible, not from cover to cover necessarily, but at least the important chapters, important areas from the textbooks.
right,
And by the time I came to my internship, I then got a little focused, and focused my preparation towards a little bit of limited stuff. So at that time, I would say, when I started exploring the PYQs, because I knew I had a good understanding of the subject in my hindsight, I just needed to know the areas which are tested in the exam. So I just
yes,
had a look at those areas. I would not necessarily say that the question itself keeps on repeating, but it is a concept which gets tested. So
I
I
agree.
feel that you have very rightly said that it is not a PYQ rather than a PYT. It's a previous year topic. So you need to have a good understanding of the topic overall.
Yes, and then at the Bayan, it's always about a lot of competition, and it's also because looking at the current pattern of the paper, a lot of it is recall based as well. I mean, we do have a lot of factual information. Yes, as compared to previous INICETs where we had more clinical stems, this was a lot more factual as compared to that. So now I want to ask you, Debayan, what was your strategy on revising the width of the content that we have, and how did you ensure that you have the right recall with the factual information, because that is something that bothers everyone, right?
Yes, ma'am. As you have said very correctly, medicine as a whole has a lot of facts and
Yeah.
things to be remembered. You cannot run before after, from that. Like, people say that it's a lot of concepts and all that stuff, but I feel that facts and stuff have to be remembered. There is no
Yes.
escape from that.
You
So
you you
yeah, exactly.
accumulate the facts and it becomes a clinical stem, right?
Yes, exactly. So there are certain subjects, again, I would say, which don't have a lot of facts. So you can always take your time, build your concepts, and leave it first later, because it doesn't require a lot of revisions. But again, there are certain subjects like surgery, psychiatry, ophthalmology, OBGY per se, because there are a lot of names, lot of maneuvers, lot of criterias which have to be remembered. So I feel we always have to make a note of things which we tend to forget, because everyone forgets different type of things. Like I had a set of
You're
things,
right.
which I used to revise before any exam, like before be it a GT, be it a CBT. I had a list made with me, like these are the things I keep on forgetting. So I
Yes.
had made sure that I always went through that before going to the exam.
Yes, so I always say everyone's wrong diary is unique to their self, and you should write down what you need to recall and revise, right? Because that's how it helps in the exam. Okay. Also, Debayan, I would want to ask you, in terms of getting prepared for the exam, you've given the CBT as well. So, what do you think was your number of correct questions in CBT, and how closely do you think the difficulty level and the pattern resembles the exam?
Well, ma'am, coming to the INICET TND, I attempted the DAMS CBT, which was held in the month of April.
Yeah.
So I had attended a NEET CBT prior to that as well, which was
Okay.
held somewhere in the month of March, I believe.
Yes,
So
yes.
after attempting the NEET CBT, I was in a good confidence space. So I was like, I'll attempt the INICET TND with that spirit as well. But the
Okay.
INICET TND was definitely an eye opener because there were a
The
lot of new
CBT.
facts
Yeah.
which popped up. The CBT, there were a lot of
Yeah.
new facts which popped up which I did not know. So
Okay.
like that actually gave me a good idea of what was coming up ahead in the next month. So had it not been the CBT, I would have not maybe gone back and taken a little more time to dig deeper into certain aspects. So I
Yes.
felt the CBT in that way tested the INICT pattern very well because it had a good mix of questions. There were facts, there were clinical stems, there were pictures, there were criterias. I feel it
Yeah.
had a good mix of questions, and it gave a person who's giving that CBT will have a pretty good idea of what is up ahead in the next month. I feel.
Yes. And Debayan, now if I may ask you, because I know you are not just a very hardworking student, you're a very bright student as well. And one of the things that I think you have as an edge is you're able to identify what to focus on, right? So you're able to, and probably that gives you the edge as well. So now if I may ask you, suppose you have to tell your juniors for the November session, what are the areas that one should convert into their strengths for any sit specifically, whether it is subjects or whatever you want to say for that?
Well, firstly, I think this has been reiterated by you and Dr. Sumesh sir a lot that the first and second year subjects, like they are a very vital cog of the INICT, I feel, because there are a lot of clinical questions which need to have, you need to have an understanding of the basic pathology and pharmacology to, arrive at an answer of a OBGY question, for example.
Yes, they're
So
integrated.
having that base is very important. So I feel anyone who is like having a little bit of time, you can always go back and develop on those first and second year subjects because we enter college newly in the first and second year. We
Yes,
don't have a lot at that time we don't maybe focus a lot. So
yeah.
those subjects may tend to be a little weak. It was weak for me, so I ensured that I brushed it up thoroughly. So
Okay.
like if someone is able to master those six subjects of first and second year, I feel they are at a very good boost or head start of the other aspirants who are going to appear for the exam.
Yes, a fair advice, I would say. And also, Devayan, this time we had seen a lot more questions from the short subjects as well, whether it is radiology or psychiatry. Yes. So, what would you say for that? Because we will always talk about the big subjects, but nobody talks about these smaller ones, which do contribute to your score, right?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Because subject like radiology, if you look at the November session, there were hardly two or three questions which
Yes.
came. But this time we had a big chunk of questions coming from radiology. So I
Yes.
feel no subject can be ignored per se for the INICT exam. You need to have a basic understanding at least of all the 19 subjects. You cannot go and leave a total subject and go for the exam. I feel that you're just putting yourself in a bad position in that respect. Just spend maybe at least the TND of all subjects. I feel one should know so that they at least have a basic idea of the terminologies at least, because otherwise it becomes very difficult. So short subjects definitely are a game changer because you can cover it in a very short span of time. You just need to sit for maybe 2 or 3 hours, just go through it quickly and finish it off with, I feel.
And which subjects would you say, Devayan, are like always the score bearers? I mean, they are asked significantly and they're not very difficult to approach as well. So, which ones were your strong pillars for the exam?
Well, ma'am, if coming to certain subjects, like we always know that every subject has a little bit of pathology in it. So Like
Mhm.
math is one subject I would say that everyone should do, because a good chunk of questions do come up in the exam every time.
Yeah.
And subjects like medicine, surgery, and OBGY are always tested to the
Yes.
core, I feel.
Yes.
One needs to have a good understanding of the things, because that is the thing we always see in our clinical postings and stuff, and in the future as well. So I feel
And
those three.
I think for these subjects, even the question number is not very erratic. I have always seen OBGY will have around 18 MCQs. Sometimes, yes, it will go in the range of 16 to 18. Sometimes it will go in the range of 18 to 20. But roundabout, those many questions are there.
Yes, ma'am. I feel that the clinical subjects are always tested adequately. Like you have almost, I would say, about like 45 to 50% of the paper coming from medicine, surgery, OBGY, pediatrics, with a little bit of integration from pathology
Yes,
and pharmacology. So I feel that is
absolutely.
a core thing which everyone has to prepare.
So I think you've given us very, very vital information, and I think it is like a must-watch strategy video, I would say, and I would recommend everyone to have this kind of clear vision and understanding, because once you know this, you know where to work, right? And
Yeah.
you can put your energy in the right direction. So, Debayan, it's an absolute pleasure to have this chat with you, because it just tells me how, what do I say? I feel a lot of satisfaction when I see you that, okay, we are in the right hands. This guy knows what he's doing,
Thank you.
right? So, this is
It's
absolutely
definitely been
amazing.
lovely talking to you.
No, it is our pleasure. And what would you want to pursue as post graduation branch, Debayan?
Well, I've not made up my mind very much, but I have an interest in the surgical specialty. So
Okay.
maybe surgery, but I'll take
Wow.
some time in deciding that.
Great. I think that's a great choice. We definitely need great doctors in every branch. And whatever you're going to pursue, I'm sure you're going to excel in that.
Thank
And
you.
also, because I feel that no journey is complete without your parents' blessings and support. Just in case they're there, is it possible to have them in the
My
video? And
mother is here. My father
great.
is out for work currently. If you can just give me a moment, I'll just
Yes,
bring her.
please. It will be my pleasure.
Happiest congratulations, Bache. We are so happy to meet you.
Yes, he's just gone to call his mother, Sumer, and he's a very, very humble student, and he's been working hard. He has been our Grey Matter quiz winner as well. He has been doing the ultimate app live, and then finally did the INICET PND. But yes, he's worked really hard. So he's here now. Uh, Hello,
Happiest
ma'am.
congratulations, बच्चे
Namaskar.
मैं भी आ गया एक बार फटाफट से congratulations करने के लिए.
Thank
Heartiest congratulations. I
thank
definitely wanted to
you so
see
much.
the woman power behind the Bayan, because, without a mother's care, support, blessing, no child can achieve this feat. So,
Thank
hats
you.
off to you, ma'am, for all the efforts in bringing up a boy like him. We will always be so proud of him.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much.
heartiest congratulations to you, to sir as well. I know he's off to work, but he's coming home to a big surprise and happiness. So
Yeah,
wish you
actually, that is the thing. He's out of town. That is the problem. Actually, his dad is not there.
great. So
Thank you
I'm
so
sure
much. Thank you so much. Bless him always. All the blessing
always,
comes.
absolutely, he will achieve great heights. He's a very humble boy. He's very, very bright, and you should be so proud of him. Just I would just say that.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
it was
Uh,
absolutely great to have you over the Bayan, and especially with mummy coming in the background. I think we all have a lighted up environment now with the mother around.
Thank
So
you.
wish you good luck, the Bayan, for anything and everything that you do. May you always succeed, be healthy and happy. Yes.
Thank you,
So
ma'am. Thank
take
you. It
care.
was lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you for making dance a part of your journey. It's been a pleasure, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
ma'am.
Debayan. Good luck. Keep
Thank you.
smiling.
Thank you.